So my first question is one that's been of a concern to our peoples for over 100 of our sidereal periods. I don't think we come to a consensus yet, and I've done a diligent search, have not found an instance in which this question was posed to you, and you've answered it, so this is as good a time as any. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
If a woodchuck could chuck wood, he would chuck as much as he could.
Okay, with apologies to Andy Warhol, that's just proof that in the future, everybody's going to be Bashar's straight man for exactly 45 seconds. All right, so next question. So in the Reflections transmission from almost a year ago, like 25 femtoseconds for you, I posed a question in the Q&A, and I was surprised to find that you responded to the question even though it wasn't presented to you, so I'm grateful for that as well.
Yes.
It was a question about the 5 laws.
Yes.
And how to understand, and whether understanding them somewhat differently would still be consistent in the way that you presented to them. And
there can be different interpretations of the laws, yes.
Right. So the specific way I have come to understand it is more like 3 laws, where the one is the all and the all is the one is the first, and yes, you exist, and everything is here and now as corollaries to that law.
Yes, of course. We only broke it out to make it easier for some people to understand the subtleties.
Okay. So, I guess, so there's nothing I'm missing there. So you answered that question. Thank you. Next question. So there's also this, I guess another understanding that I've come to and like to communicate is that we as a people, I call ourselves Mollies, like Masters of Limitation.
Yes.
That seems like the name is appropriate. One is the one that you touched on a little earlier in this transmission, which is many of us think of ourselves as bodies with a soul, when in truth we are souls that have a body. But the other fallacy, I'm sorry, was that? Okay. But the other fallacy is that the universe, we understand the universe to be principally physical, meaning the Big Bang happened and these little things called atoms, got more and more complex,
yes,
et cetera, and the consciousness arose out of that. Whereas the truth, or truth is too big a word, but it's more accurate to say.
The whole picture.
The whole picture.
Yes,
is
the idea of the physical universe is just part of the picture.
Right, and that it arose out of consciousness, meaning consciousness is primary, and the universe came out of consciousness. Is that accurate? Is that a
well, again, you're saying it from a linear perspective when you say came out of. Because again, existence is. And time is one of the things that exists within existence. And so you can experience the idea of a universe coming out of it, or you can experience it just as is. So it just depends on your perspective.
Interesting. Okay. So I'll have to internalize that a little bit more later. So,
all right, if you say so.
All right. Because the next part of my question kind of depended on a different answer, so I'll go to the next question. All right. So in another transmission from the Transforming Beliefs transmission, you mentioned this idea of resonant entrainment among a group, and the idea of creating a kind of bubble.
Yes.
And
are you talking about around the ships?
No. I meant not. It was presented in a way that it was something that we could do ourselves, even in our current state. We could use resonance to better entrain our hearts together to achieve an aim.
This is why in ancient Atlantis it was a technique that was used with drums. The idea of, in classes, to teach children things, they would start by beating a drum along with the idea of the heartbeat. And as soon as all of the children in the class were resonating to that drum beat, it was matched, synchronized to their heartbeats, then they would slow that beat down, their heartbeats would slow down, they would go into a kind of a trance-like state, and then they would be able to experience the lesson in a much fuller and richer way as an actual experience of being what they were being taught about. So in other words, if they were being taught about sailing, they could actually experience themselves in the trance-like state of being in that resonant bubble as if they actually were the ship, were the sails, were the ropes, were the water. They could actually experience being the ship by being in that trance, and it was induced from that resonant drumbeat state. Yes?
Are there ways we can work together to do something similar? Specifically, my recollection, at least, of that transmission was that it could be, that resonance that you just referred to could be used in the way you just described. But I also got the impression that it could also be used in a way to project love, harmony, whatever the intention is that shared group has.
Because then you're saying you're in resonant harmony with existence. Because unconditional love is the signature frequency of existence itself. That's what you translate the frequency of existence as. You call it unconditional love.
Right.
So if you're in harmonic resonance with it, then that's what you're projecting, yes.
Okay. So I also participate in musical performance, and that idea inspired me to imagine how I might be able to do that.
Yes.
In the next 5 years. I was hoping, if it's possible for you to elaborate on how ways we might be able to apply it. Is there something you can share with us that would help us?
You're familiar with the Formula 2, yes?
Yes, I am, and I'm going to self-disclose that I know I am not adhering or acting in a way consistent with the formula at all times.
Well, it's all about being in resonance with unconditional love, because the idea is when we talk about acting on your passion, we're talking about acting on your passion in service to humanity, and that has to come from unconditional love.
Okay. So I have a question about this. Is really about my
what?
My personal experience. This is a personal question.
Yes.
Just last night, I was engaging in a ceremony, and the facilitator of that ceremony asked me what I wanted to receive.
Yes.
And I was a little flummoxed at my inability to simply answer that question.
All right.
Meaning, and that led me to probe it's obvious I have I won't say a problem, I have a challenge with that. What I'm asking you, is there something that you can read specifically in me that leads to that challenge?
All right, well, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
If you hadn't been willing to open up to receive being flummoxed, what would you have been open up to receiving? What did being open to being flummoxed get in the way of you actually receiving? Because being flummoxed means, in a sense, you may not have felt you were ready to actually receive what you really preferred to receive. So why aren't you ready for that? That's the question to examine within yourself. Is there a fear connected to that idea of receiving something that you really know you wish to receive, but get in the way by being flummoxed, by being hesitant? Is that what the fear-based belief within you is going, don't do that yet, you're not ready for that yet, so be flummoxed. So that's the question to ask yourself. What is it that you could have received that you might not have felt ready to receive that caused you to react by being flummoxed?
Thank you, Bashar.
All right?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Immense gratitude once again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Hello.
I know you. Good day.
So that nice gentleman sort of stole my question a little bit. Where I'm over
Are you
here
going to have him arrested?
I may. We may hang out and be confused and flummoxed, as he said, together. But that's...
I'm sure there's enough flummox to go around.
I'm sure there is. So when I thought a lot about what I was going to ask you, that was the overwhelming feeling that I had, is I never feel like I can trust the things that I'm thinking about.
All right. One moment. Don't go any further.
Okay.
So what are you using your trust for?
I think just getting through the day, man. Like, just making stuff happen.
All right.
Yeah.
Remember, you're always trusting something.
Yeah.
It's not about not trusting. You're always trusting something. So the question is, what are you trusting? And why? Why are you putting your trust in something you don't prefer as opposed to something you do? What makes putting your trust in something you don't prefer seem more realistic than putting it in something you do prefer? Why do you have that difference in definition?
Yeah. I think when there's something tangible to it, I can see the results. I think.
So are you saying you only see results in negative things you don't prefer? You never see results in something you do prefer, or do you?
I think I have more emotion tied to the things that come up that are things I don't prefer.
More emotion? Because?
I don't know. I think it's always easier to probably dwell on the negative rather than...
Is it easier to be someone you're not?
In like a self-loathing kind of way, maybe.
Oh,
yeah,
all right. Why do you loathe yourself?
I don't know.
Why do you deserve to loathe
deep.
yourself? Did you say it's safer?
I said it's getting deep. It's getting a little uncomfortable for me.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it means you're reaching down to where you need to find the answers. That's okay. Unless you want to stop this, it's up to you.
No, I think it's good.
All right. Then we can continue.
Okay.
So, what do you loathe about yourself? I mean, if you're going to loathe yourself, go for it. Don't do anything halfway.
I don't think I do.
Really suck.
Yeah.
Now, whoa.
Okay.
Do you really suck? Or is it something less than that?
I think it's something less than that.
Oh, all right. So we're making progress.
Yeah.
You don't completely loathe yourself. You just loathe yourself a little bit here and there, now and then. In certain ways at certain times. Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
About what specifically? Can you name one example where you loathe yourself in a situation in life?
I think just there's more of a general feeling that I get that...
But in what circumstances? What triggers it? When you experience what? When you see what? What triggers it? Where do you find yourself coming up short?
I think in my relationships with others, I feel generally that like very alone, like no one cares about me.
All right. Do you care enough about yourself to not care whether they care about you?
I'm working on that.
All right. How long have you been working on that?
I would say always, my whole life.
Your entire life. Well, your entire life isn't over yet. So you haven't been working on it for your entire life.
Yeah.
You've been working on it for your life up to now.
Yes.
All right. So don't exaggerate.
Okay.
You haven't lived your entire life yet.
Let's hope not, yeah.
Would you prefer to live the rest of your life without that feeling?
Yes.
How do you know you would prefer to live the rest of your life without that feeling if you don't know what it would feel like to live without that feeling? Ooh. Ooh, tricky. Listen carefully, how do you know you would prefer to live the rest of your life without that feeling if you don't know what it feels like to live without that feeling? Because you can't perceive what you're not the vibration of. So what part of you suddenly goes, oh, I think it would be nice to live without that feeling of feeling this if I didn't actually have an experience of having that feeling?
I'm not
So
sure if
you
I
must
got it.
have some idea what it would feel like to live without feeling loathsome, yes?
Yes, I see that, what you're saying, yeah.
All right. So as you're imagining what that might feel like, Aren't you in that state of not being loathsome?
Yes.
So how does that feel?
Good.
All right. Would you like to continue to generate that feeling?
Yes, absolutely.
What stops you from doing so? What reasons are you creating to not generate a feeling you are obviously capable of generating because you just did it?
Yeah.
So what reasons are you creating to not have that feeling in the way that you would prefer to?
I think there's a part of me that's looking for outside validation from others.
Can I tell you a secret?
Please?
There is no outside for you. Everything you're experiencing in your universe is you. So you're only looking for validation from yourself. Yes, there are other beings, as we said before, but you're only experiencing your version of them. So they are aspects and reflections of you, even though they are also somewhat symbolically representative of other real beings. They're still reflecting to you what it is you need to understand about what you need to give to yourself. So you have to give it to yourself, and there is no reason not to except for the reasons you create, thus creating reflections of other people to not give it to you, because you're not giving it to yourself. Remember, they're just reflecting to you what you're giving off.
Yeah.
I don't deserve to be cared about. I don't care about myself, so I'm going to create a bunch of reflections and symbols of other people that don't care about me either. All you have to do is realize you're the one creating that for some particular reason. So what's the reason? And then you will realize the reason is nonsensical. You don't have to create that reason. And the paradox is, you have to care for yourself and know that you're worth it and deserve it, regardless of what's going on in the reflections. Let's put it in the simple analogy, as we always do, of a mirror. Listen to this phrase. Now, I'm just going to use the term God. I'm just going to use that term to make this phrase simple. It's God, Goddess, it's all that is, it's source, it's whatever you want to call it. But here's the reality. God is a mirror. Let that sink in. God is a mirror. It can only show you what you're giving off. That's all it can do. God is a mirror. If you're frowning, you can only see a frown on the reflection in the mirror. That's all that can come back to you. It cannot smile before you do. But the mirror doesn't have a choice of its own. It doesn't care what you look like on your face. It will dutifully reflect whatever you give off, whatever expression you have. So if you're seeing a frown in the reflection in the mirror, and you would prefer to smile, the reflection isn't stopping you from smiling. You have to decide to smile. Then the mirror has no choice but to smile back, because it doesn't have a contradictory opinion. It's just a mirror. It doesn't say, oh, you shouldn't smile now. Don't smile at me. It says, oh, you're smiling. Here you go. God is a mirror. That's it. That's the ultimate guiding principle, because it's giving you literally what you're giving off to guide you. Because if you don't prefer the reflection, change it. There is nothing to stop you from changing it. The control is in your hands. Totally, utterly in your hands. You're in charge. So why not feel deserving? The reflection doesn't care. Being a being that is deserving can be just as real, because it's all within the reflection. Is this making some sense?
It definitely is.
Is it helping?
It is. Would you say that taking an approach of like fake it till you make it is something that's fitting?
You can use the general idea, the general concept behind that principle, but it's not really about faking it. It's about knowing that while you're faking it, what you're actually doing is practicing what can actually become true for you. So it can't just be that you're faking it. It has to be that you are mocking it up until you understand that there's no reason to pretend that it is actually your reality. But you have to realize that internally before you will experience it externally. Does that make sense?
It does.
So when you're looking in a mirror, how do you fake a smile?
It's not a very good one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The mirror is going to do this too. Is that what you prefer?
No.
Probably not.
No.
So finally you will say, well, yeah, it's not really about this, it's just about this. Because that feels good. That's who I prefer to be. And the mirror goes, okay. So, yeah, sure, you can go and fake it, but that's what you will see in the mirror. Yes?
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask you another question?
I don't know. That was a question.
May I? May I ask? Okay. Sometimes when you're waiting, you crack
Sometimes
your
when
teeth.
you're what?
When you're waiting.
Why are you waiting?
No, when you are.
When I'm waiting, I'm never waiting.
I'm just I'm just wondering why you do that.
Why I do what?
All right, never mind. Thank you.
Why I do what? It's the channel's body translating the fact that I'm having a conversation with someone else.
So when my father was dying, he started doing that a lot. And
He might have been having a conversation with beings on the other side he was about to meet.
yeah, he said some things that made me think that, and
Yes.
I saw you do it, and I was like,
It could
No.
also mean that Dad is saying hello.
I like that. Thank you.
You're welcome.